Hi, this is a little dwarf playing games while rambling incoherently into the microphone. Why? Well, just because I can, and I continue with Dragon Commander and with the conquest of the world map. Now, I think I can probably retreat most of my units from... although they can attack from sea, can't they? So I will leave some to defend this land, but I would like to take the armors. Now I can use the... Actually, I don't need a factory here. I sell the building. And instead I can build a tavern which grants mercenary cards, which are very useful because they can allow you to influence the outer result. And I can use the gold multiplying card on this land here, because there's a gold mine here. Buy some units. Okay, I don't have enough strength to push forward yet, so I'll just recruit some additional units and end the turn for now. Okay, that wasn't that wise of my enemy to attack. Now, you can use regular outer resolve, but you can also command your generals to take command, and you can see, as you can see, it gives you better odds, but you have to pay them. So it's useful, but you don't always need it. If you have enough of an advantage, then you don't have to bother with it. So I'll just go with regular outer resolve. — 4,000 casualties, and it was like, what, a couple of days.
Ah, Commander. No doubt you've had an eventful and successful day so far. But don't rest on your laurels just yet. For I'm here to inform you the councilors have arrived. The ambassadors of the races whom you'll have to duel and deal with in the political arena. Such is both the prerogative and the burden of an emperor-to-be. You may think your first duty is that of conquest, to bring the war to as swift an end as possible. But I'm afraid there is much more to being a monarch than military matters alone. As a commander, as an emperor, you'll have to constantly endeavor to find that delicate balance between your roles as strategist and statesman, for the one necessarily influences the other.
Yeah, actually the statesman part is the most interesting in this game.
Now, you may consider it strange that some will worry about the price of bread and others will gripe about taxes, when all around us, machines of war threaten the existence of the very realm. But if you give it a moment's further thought, this is only logical. We may find ourselves trapped amid a conflict of gargantuan proportions. But that does not mean the average man worries most about feeding his family, about the little things that make for a happy life. And when you have been given an empire, Commander, you have to be responsible for every matter, every obstacle, every creature, great and small. This may seem daunting, but I have never and never will doubt for even an instant that you, of all people, will rise to the occasion. Your councilors await you in the throne room, Commander. Godspeed.
Aha! Shush, everyone, shush! Here comes the long-awaited commander. The dragon that would deliver us from vile usurpers. The one deserving heir to Rivelon's throne. Let me cut right to the chase, Commander, for I'm not a man who takes pride in his words, but in his pragmatism, rather. The entire realm is under siege, and the free peoples left need a strong leader. One who inspires. You see, There may be a war going on, Commander, but that doesn't mean you don't have a realm to rule. Oftentimes, political concerns will take precedence over military ones, no matter how trivial they may sometimes seem in these dark times. As much as possible, where your rule has been established, everyday life must continue like it would in times of peace, and everyday life concerns itself with everyday worries. The people will look to you for guidance in these matters. We, as their representatives, have witnessed your triumphs with mounting awe, and have agreed you are to be the one, the hero, who shall both restore the kingdom and recommence the workings of government. I therefore declare you Emperor. Long live the Emperor! Long live the Emperor!
Yeah, now the various races are sort of a caricatures of various political stances. For example, the Dwarves are like conservatives, mostly, like in social matters they're conservatives, but they are also concerned with free markets and industry. The Elves are the classical left. They are very much about social aids and general welfare state. The Undead are, well, you can call them the far right, although they are far more they are religious fanatics to the extreme. Most of their decisions and their politics are dictated by religion. The Lizard Men are classical liberals, even to the point that they dislike you for running, for being a king. At one point you can organize a referendum that will tell you if you should step down and organize a republic. So they are classical liberals who've taken the liking to democracy and stuff, but also are for great personal freedom and whatnot. And the Imps are, I don't think the Imps have a direct comparison to the real world, because they're pretty much uninterested in politics. They are only interested in research, explosions, and that sort of stuff. And a couple of times the councilor here even tells you that he doesn't care, and he will flip a coin to see what he will vote on a particular matter. So let us talk to all of them.
May the Seven be praised now that we have found our champion and our emperor. May the fire of the dragon obliterate every heretic in its way. May the light of the gods illuminate your soul.
You hold the gods in quite regard, it seems.
The highest. We are the chosen of the Seven, Commander. We are those that have known death, have walked its black shores, but then have been restored to life.
It's really weird how its skull moves as if it was flesh, but he doesn't have any muscles or anything left. So I don't think it should work this way.
You think you are alive now, Commander, but you are not. You are but in the phase of flesh. Yet if you are devout and sweat in service of the Seven, you too, after the Dark Mother has lulled you to sleep, may be plucked from the dales of shadow and given the perpetuity of the bone. Do well by the gods, Commander, and you'll do well by us, as well as all in the realm. We have many proposals to that effect, which I will bring before you in due time. So say I, Yorick, humble servant of the Seven.
Alas, poor Yorick. That's a cool Hamlet reference.
Honored to meet you, Commander. I am Oberon, envoy of the Elves, ambassador of the beasts, spokesman of plants, here in the hope that our new emperor will treat majestic Rivellon with the reverence she deserves, even in these times of frightful war.
So what is it that makes the Elves tick?
Well, Commander, if Elves were the only race to have become what they misnomer civilized, this globe and all upon it would exist in a paradise of such perfection, the gods need not create for us a heaven. Such,
well,
alas,
that's a
is
little
the
bit
fiction,
arrogant of you.
not the reality. Others, less scrupulous in the handling of natural beauty, have risen to prominence. They hack and mine, blast, drain, and usurp. As much as we can, we condemn and attempt to stop their misguided endeavors. We are the Green Mothers, unwavering paladins. And it is our fondest desire you, Commander, will join our ranks. Defend nature, and defend the little man, for they will in turn defend you. A happy people, one with the wilds, will fight for its country with redoubled zeal. To that effect, I hope we'll have your backing.
Isn't this a world gone topsy-turvy? I've declared you Emperor, and you don't even know my name. Sir Falstaff Silvervein, Commander. Born and bred neath the Emerald Mountains. There. Now that we've been acquainted, I do declare it's time for a beer.
Tell me a bit more about the dwarves.
A prouder folk you'll ne'er meet, Commander, nor a more robust one. Best allies an aspiring king can have, for our love of gold and all things precious is legendary, and gold is what an emperor needs if it be conquest that takes his fancy. So listen when I give advice, for your economy will prosper by it. Liquid gold, of course, is another of our pride and joys. For ale a sparkle, we'd go to war. But our families, above all, Commander, are holy. Those manifold kernels that band together, and like the rings that form a chain mail, shape a society that is stout and steadfast. Yes, dwarven families grow as plenty as the grain on 1,000 wheat fields. And just like grain, it is from them that we derive the bread that nourishes civilization, and the beer that quenches its thirst.
By the powers vested in me by the great lizard lords, I, Prosper, endorse your newfound emperorship. Sorely we are in need of a dragon commander.
Now it's a little nonsensical that the lizard men have breasts, because we were even told before that they are hatched from eggs, much as regular lizards are. We were told it about Edmund, so I don't think, like, what is even the purpose of them having breasts apart from some furry bait? But anyway, tell me more about your kind.
We are not a people that make great demands, Commander. We simply hold many a thing dear without succumbing to the excess of it. The dwarves revere their gold to such an extent it becomes a fetish. Elves abide so strictly by nature they become her slaves. We like gold, for it is an economical mast. We like nature, for she sustains us. Yet none of the two we idolize. Reason and liberty, those are our bywords. Territories we defend valiantly. Territories, alas, easily encroached upon, for emperors tend to curtail them. Our ideal is therefore not a monarchy, but a republic.
Yeah.
Think on that, Commander, as you pursue the throne.
What about the imps?
By Grumio's gadgets, it's a pleasure indeed to shake hands with you, Commander. Your technician is my nephew, don't you know? And I am Trinculo Shortfuse, son of Trunculo Even Shorter Fuse. Praised be the dragon!
What brings the imps to the table?
Ha! You want gizmos? You want imps. You want the unthinkable? You want imps. You want great, big, loud, bright fire explosions? Lords above, it's imps you want. We live for all that is new and shiny. The old, we blow it up. The new, we study it for a while before we blow it up. Why? Because there's always something even newer waiting around the corner. Science, Great Dragon, never sits still. Try, investigate, experiment. And with a bit of luck, boom! Ha ha ha! A bigger bang than ever. On a more serious note though, Commander, science is indeed our passion. And we hope that under your rule, we will be free to explore its limits. Damn the gods, for there are none, and damn petty morality, for it is a brake on progress. Back us, and we'll craft you miracles.
So I suppose they can be sort of akin to a league of technocrats or something. They are mostly concerned with technological progress and don't mind the other areas of life. Although it's not really a valid political stance, because science and research does not exist in a vacuum. But anyway, I wanted to ask Catherine about the other generals, but she's still not here, so... You have anything new to say?
The Raven sang new songs last night, my lord. Want to see the things she showed me?
Not yet. Okay, so I can resume the campaign map. I have a couple of those mercenary cards in case the forces arrayed against me prove too great. Do I have any warlock trooper? Okay, I don't have any cards I can use on the enemy, so I'll just end turn.
What a sorry excuse for a general Henry is. Drunk as a dwarf again, going on and on about his lost arm. The more liquor disappears down his throat, the more he can still feel it. Wish he had a phantom tongue instead of a phantom limb. The place would be so much quieter.
Commander, it is imperative that we should win the war. For our enemies are godless heathens in need of annihilation. To hasten this process, I therefore propose we introduce conscription. For why have young, able-bodied men sit around or do menial tasks when they could be serving in your armies instead?
So here you have the first of many political decisions you will have to give your ruling on. Now each councilor has their own opinion on the matter. Now as for me, I am not a fan of conscription because I, much as the lizardmen in this game, consider myself a liberal, and I don't think people should be forced to be drafted. One, because it violates their personal freedom, but two, also because I don't think it creates effective soldiers. Like, if you draft a person who really doesn't want to go to war, he will do everything in his power to basically evade combat, to go back home. He can desert, he can even maybe betray you in some matters. It only creates problems, in my opinion. I would much rather have a standing professional army and concentrate on, new technologies, developing better arms and stuff, rather than forcing people who don't want to enter the army to be conscripted. But we can ask the various councilors what they have to say on the matter. Now, I think he will repeat himself.
Commander, it is imperative that we should win the war.
Yeah. So what about you?
Commander, even the most peace-loving elf won't deny that in these dark times of war, allowances have to be made which we would otherwise condemn. Conscription, though, goes too far. Let those that wish to fight for our cause do so.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
let's not force men away from their families if they feel it is their duty to stand by them.
I do agree with his point. Now the dwarves, presumably, I think, will be in favor because it's a traditional thing for a man to go to war in defense of his country.
Conscription may have somewhat of an ill ring to it, Commander, but it might be worth consideration nonetheless. There's not a dwarf that won't take up his axe for the Empire, but elves. A three-fingered man could number their volunteers on one hand. Time to get these weaklings into shape.
Now, one more thing. In a setting like this, I think conscription is even less viable than in a real world, because you have a lot of those machines that are real force multiplayer. You don't need so many actual infantrymen if you have tanks and stuff. Obviously, I think they are manned. I don't think there is an AI system in this game for steam-powered machinery, but still, it's not exactly pure manpower that you need. You need skilled pilots and stuff. So I would much rather have people who actually want to do it rather than people being forced into combat.
I don't think conscription is a very good idea, Commander. Not only should a life of soldiery be an individual's choice rather than an obligation, but by drafting so many young men into the army, you're draining our economical reserves. So please don't forget your political obligations because of your military ones.
That is also kind of true, I guess, because one of the reasons why during World Wars women first started, for example, working in factories was precisely because there was a big hole in the workforce because of all the men being drafted. So there was a lack of workers. So women were allowed to take occupations they were not allowed before, simply because there weren't enough people to cover all the jobs.
Here's an Imp's perspective, Commander. More soldiers equals bigger battles, and bigger battles equals more explosions. Win-win. Granted, it's a bit of a simplistic perspective, but Imps will have their fun, you know.
Yeah, I am not in favor of conscription, so I won't institute conscription.
Your refusal is no more than an encouragement, a celebration even of cowardice. Those who do not step up for the glory of the gods by themselves should have been forced to do so.
Nope. The Undead will pretty much hate me because I don't think there is a single instance in which I will agree with this guy. This is pretty backwards.
Thank you for disagreeing with Yorick, Commander. War is a demanding mistress, and if we give her all she wants, we shall lose our humanity in the process.
If no conscription means there will remain more dwarves in the army than there are elves, I hope we'll be duly recompensed, Commander. We fight so that they may tend to their bloody vegetable gardens in peace.
And I respect that.
Very good. I must say, though, I was surprised Falstaff didn't pull the economy card like I did. Conscription might well have drafted some of his precious brewing masters into the military. If those were killed, entire dwarven nations would revolt.
Commander, here was me agreeing with one of Yorick's proposals, and still you disagree. You won't see an opportunity to please both Imps and Undead pop up again in a hurry.
Yeah, because the Undead are opposed to technological progress because they consider it an abomination unto their gods. It's pretty much everything else, to be honest. Oh, here we are.
Impressive victory, Commander. You fight like a lion, which is almost as good as a lioness.
I would like to hear your opinion about your fellow generals.
If you wish.
General
Anyone
Edmund.
in particular? He's in a class of his own, there's no doubt about it. A brilliant mind, but in my opinion, a flawed one as well. He styles himself as superior to everyone else, and that would be just fine if he weren't a man. Or a bigot. I have many friends and enemies that are dwarves or elves or imps, and never have I seen evidence the one is inherently more smart or stupid than the other. In Edmund's mind, though, we are all on par with cattle, which is simply infuriating.
Well, that is a bit hypocritical of her to say that she hasn't seen any evidence to suggest that one race is inherently more smart or stupid than the other, but yet at the same time she maintains that women are pretty much superior to men.
If you wish.
What about
Anyone
Henry?
in particular? General Henry is the typical man who thinks of himself as an alpha male, whereas he is, of course, an alpha mongrel. He has the refinement of an inbred orc, and the manners to match, but he is a more than adequate officer once the trumpets herald war. Indeed, if he were a bit less brazen and a bit more calculated in his conduct, he might well come to rival Eerie Edmund. If you wish.
What about
Anyone
Scarlet?
in particular? She could stand to be a bit more ladylike in her ways, and many consider her resistance to authority counterproductive in a military setting. But she's wily as a wizard, and tough as mithril nails. Don't ask me why, but I have the feeling she's a troubled girl somehow. A girl, yes, hardly a woman as yet. None of my business, of course. She is here, and she's willing to fight for Rivellon. That's all that really matters.
Okay. What about you? Anything new to say?
Well, 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 the Dragon Commander himself. Come, sit, drink with me. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. He's had a few too many. But you take to the right too if you had an imp apparatus for an arm. Never told you how I came by this eyesore, did I? 'Twas during the great and glorious last stand to save the Empire. Horseshit. We fought like lions so that the king, your bloody father, could scarper with what riches he could hold. But my soldiers did their duty. They died where they stood, and I was left for dead. Want of an eye and an arm. Not that any of it mattered. The king's head was shown decorating a stake, like star crowns will the pines come midwinter night. Defeat. Bah. Luckily, a touch of the malt can relieve its bitter taste.
And despite your dislike of my father, you did your duty, and I respect that. I also hope I'll gain your respect in the end.
You have the respect of Maxos, and that certainly speaks in your favor. But you'll need to come a long way yet to prove unto me you're not just another pampered prince he yanked away from his mother's teat. So what'll you have then? Mead or milk?
Do you have anything new to say?
Our victory was so complete, I can taste it. You did well by us, Commander.
Okay, I don't think so. So I think I can... Oh, I actually have a few research points, so... I can research the production of armors. And maybe... Zeppelins as well. Can be back to the campaign map. Yeah, I prefer to leave at least a couple of units in the older territories to defend them against. Anything I can play? No. Henry unfit to be general, but don't quote me on that, Lord Edmund Confines. As you can see, my political popularity amongst the various races has changed due to my recent vote. The ones that were in favor of conscription like me less now, but the ones that were against it like me more. Oh, that's a really good mercenary card. What is it?
Fie upon Edmund's pride, Commander. The Lizard Lords have granted him the honor of representing our mighty military on a diplomatic mission of utter import, and he gets his knickers in a twist because it comes with a spot of sacrament alien to our ways. I should think it would be good fun to attend an imp ceremony. Something is bound to blow up. Isn't that what the generals normally like?
Yeah, as I said, you can influence your generals along the way by selecting particular dialogue options, and it changes it can change their relation with you, but also their characters, sort of.
I must say, I don't envy Edmund, Commander. He's to bow and scrape afore an imp of all things. If 'twere any other general, I'd publicly protest. But that conceited tosser deserves to kiss dust once in a while. Remind him he walks the earth just like the rest of us. Well, except you, perhaps.
Yeah, because I'm a dragon.
Combat and carnage! Huzzah! You showed him, Commander.
Okay, I'm just checking if they have...
Under my rule, you'd be given the Cross of Bravery for that last action, Commander. Well done.
Just checking if they have anything to say.
Imps, Commander. Are they not truly the lowliest of all the races? Were it not for the hint of demon cunning in their blood, we most probably wouldn't speak to them as much as serve them for supper with a series of seasonal stuffings. As it is, however, the Lizard Lords have deemed it fit to strengthen the military cooperation between ourselves and those demoniacal dewdrops. I'd exhale an existential sigh upon the hearing of such folly, yet give it no further thought but for one devilish detail in the treaty. It is I, as our foremost general, who must, quite literally, stoop to inspect their armies. An impish high priest will be present, figures fit for farce that are greeted and received with ridiculous amounts of highly ritualized protocol.
Didn't the Imp councilors say that they don't believe in gods? So it's weird that they even have priests.
As Henry might say, Commander, I'd rather lick marmalade from an orc's behind than bow to an imp. My very reason for currying your draconic benevolence at this hour. Certainly I have your blessing to abstain from these grotesque formalities and tend to business rather than etiquette.
I don't really care if you have to jump through hoops. If it's a courtesy that is demanded, you must deliver, because such are the rules of diplomacy, and we have to abide.
Your wish, my command, et sorry cetera. But if there indeed be hoops, the snapping of little necks will be added to the ritual.
Yeah, I think it's especially if you're on a diplomatic mission, you should respect the customs of your hosts, basically, even if they seem a little ridiculous to you. 7 troopers. Quite a... Although I have this mercenary card that gives me +5. Yeah, I think I should be able to win that with mercenary cards if needed, although I'm a little worried about their counterattack onto this territory. Oh damn it, I misclicked. I wanted to move. Damn it. Wonder if I can... Okay, this should be enough for me to... Oh, I actually... Okay, that was a disaster. Emperor subjects general to impish humiliation. Okay, I totally wasted that mercenary card then.
It would seem Edmund has come back from his inspection duties among the Imp armies already. I had expected tales of mayhem to precede his reappearance. In fact, I bet Henry the Lizards and Imps would be at war as soon as he set foot among them. But no. All the better, of course. Though a little disappointing.
Yeah, so...
Commander, I am pleading here today on behalf of a dwarven miner who was cruelly left to his fate by his own kindred. An incident in the mines cost him his leg, and he is too poor to pay for a proper prosthetic one. Henry, your own general, could afford impish machinery, but the dwarves, who easily could as well, will not provide for their stricken fellow. Well, I say they should. Indeed, the state should. We can. So why not do so?
So basically public healthcare. Now it's obviously a really complicated subject, and I don't consider myself versed enough in it to really explain it in detail, but like we have public healthcare in Poland, and I have really mixed feelings about it because there are really long waiting lines, and in some cases, if you would like to go for a public for a procedure using the public healthcare system, you would have to wait so long that you might as well die during like in a queue. But on the other hand, my view is a bit biased because my family is pretty well off for Polish standards, so whenever we needed to urgently see a doctor, we just go private because we can afford it, as opposed to this minor in the story. But like in general, I think I think the less the state is involved in anything, the better. I am a I think it's called a minarchist, not a monarchist, but a minarchist, which is I am an advocate of a really limited government in most things, and I think private healthcare has a potential to work, although from what I've heard about the the American system, it isn't really, like, if you don't have insurance, you're pretty much screwed, but then again, it isn't the point. The point is that you should have insurance, and from what I believe, there are like different levels that cost different cost thresholds, so it isn't that there is only one provider of insurance that is infinitely, costly. There are different providers, and in theory, the free market should regulate the prices. So, as I said, it's a really complicated subject, and I don't consider myself educated enough, to be honest, to really understand all of the pros and cons. As I say, for me, private healthcare is okay because I can afford it, but then again, if I couldn't, my view could be different entirely. Although, as I also said, in Poland, even though there is a public healthcare system, and theoretically you'd be eligible for all the different procedures for free if you needed them, the waiting time is so long that I don't think it works well. And I think a better private system maybe could be arranged, but then again, I am not a politician, thanks God, and not really a medical professional or an administrator either. So I will just listen what the different councilors have to say on the matter.
Just like diseases, accidents are simply punishments from the gods. If this misbegotten dwarf lost a leg, he probably took the Seven's names in vain, or forgot to say a prayer before dinner, and they saw it fit to make him attentive of his sin. Paying for his convalescence would be tantamount to forgiving his trespass, which only the gods have the lease to do.
Yeah, so basically the undead, pretty much all the things they say are nonsense. Backwards religious dogma and stuff.
Commander?
Already talked with him.
If the state should pay for each and every work accident, for every broken nail and broken leg, we'll be paying through the nose. And it's your finances that'll be crippled. Mark my words, Commander. Listen to that bleeding heart elf, and the treasury will bleed the more for it.
Now, I don't think it's really an economical question. Well, obviously it is to a point, but I think it's also like a point of principle, because I think basically every man should be responsible for himself and not count on the state to help him, but rather try to live his life in such a way that he can provide for himself, or his family can provide for himself if he cannot. But then again, also, as I mentioned, I'm pretty well off, so obviously my view is biased on the subject, because I was never hungry, I was never, unable to pay my medical bills. Every time I wanted to go to see a doctor, I could. So it's obviously it's a colored view, and if I were in a different situation, I would think differently.
Oberon's tale is a shocking one, Commander. If this miner suffered such a dreadful injury while working, then the mining corporation in charge should pay for his treatment. And if they won't or cannot, then yes, the nation should.
Yes, I think, I agree with her in part. I think it should be the work of private insurers, not the state. Insurance companies, you should have insurance provided by your employer in your contract, and you can decide if it's a good idea to you once you sign while you're signing the contract. But I don't think, as I said, I am in favor of a very limited government, and I don't think public healthcare really is necessary.
You mean to say our scientists will have to pay for each and every limb, ear or eye they lose doing their research? But they'll learn to be careful. Perish the thought.
Yeah, so I will not institute government healthcare, although, as I said, it's a really complicated issue, and I can very well understand the arguments to the contrary.
So another crippled laborer must perish in the gutter to save the royal treasury a few guineas. There is
That's
blood
not the
on
point,
your gold,
though.
Commander, that cannot be washed away.
Not the point. It's not about the gold. It's about the principles of how much the government should interfere in the matters of everyday life.
It doesn't do to undo another's sin, Commander, for then he cannot atone. Without repentance, there cannot be forgiveness. Without forgiveness, no promise of paradise. Through his prolonged suffering, you saved the sinner. Well done.
Pretty much every time Yorick here praises me, I feel ashamed by his, by the fact I did something he likes because it seems wrong.
Quick thinking, Commander. Can you imagine some half-brained miner with a sophisticated imp appendage strapped to his leg? What a waste of first-class engineering that would be. He can find himself a stick to lean on, and that's that.
I dare you to look that disabled miner in the eye and tell him you haven't the money to spare that would make his life bearable.
Not the point.
Tell him that
I could.
While above him the raven hovers and countless constructs of war trod by, all worth more than the entire kingdoms. I dare you, Commander.
That's not the point. I would pay out of my own pocket for his, prosthetics, and I even encourage, I am very much in favor of charity work in real life, and if I had myself the means to reimburse him for the prosthetic, I would, but that's the state politics we're talking about, not my personal money that I hoard.
Thanks, Commander. Took about 100 imps a hand and a foot to get your jetpack in working order. So paying for a couple of metal fingers and toes is the least you can do in return, wouldn't you say? Frightfully boring folk, those lizards, Commander. That general of yours held our high priest hostage with board games and chatter. Our engineers built a great tower just to blow it up again. A great gift for the envoy of our allies. But did he come and watch? No. Preferred conversation to combustion. What a nincompoop.
So,
I don't care what they say, Commander. We'd have won that last battle if the others had shown a bit more temperament. You drink up and go in till the day is won, I say.
apparently he did quite well.
Commander, no doubt you rejoice at my swift return from the land of Imps, that borough of blight, that cyst in civilization. Returned have I to more glorious heights. The gods I'd thank if I believed in any. Do forgive me if I appear exceptionally smug today, but I was very flattered, you see, to witness how my reputation precedes me even into the very crevices of the world. The Imps had heard of my approach and my modicum of resentment for their rituals. I was therefore pleasantly surprised to be greeted with a cordial handshake no more. Yes, he was rather an agreeable chap, as a matter of fact. The High Priest, I mean. After the military inspection, we played chess and talked philosophy the night through. It goes without saying I won every game and lacerated his logic like an eagle its prey. But he was not as devoid of all intellect as I had expected his entire species to be. A comforting thought, somehow, knowing you trust them to strap explosive engines to your back.
Okay, I think this episode is long enough, so I will save. And see you in the next one. Bye.